For most of history, slaves were people that would work for free and they would have shelter, food, and water that was given to them. Now, humans work for money, but they have to pay for the food, shelter, and water. Now, I'm not saying that it was ever right at any point in history, but this is the reality that we live in. We think that we've earned freedom, but are we truly free? There's an illusion of choice here. People say that, no one's forcing you to work to 9 to 5, but survival essentially requires it, unless you're one of the very select few that can find a way to get out of that. When the alternative to working is suffering or homelessness, that choice really becomes questionable, right? It's not chains, it's just economic pressure. Different system, same result. So you're essentially selling the majority of your life. That's what you do with the 9 to 5. People spend 40 plus hours a week working. And let's be honest, the 40-hour work week, it's really not, I don't think that's average. I think the average person actually works more than 40 hours now. So then you add commuting, preparing for work, recovering from work, like all that stuff. You really don't have that much time to yourself. And when you're constantly working, especially for something that you don't actually enjoy or doesn't bring you fulfillment, you become exhausted. And when you get off of work, you don't even care to do or pursue something that you're passionate about on the side, because you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so exhausted from my full day at work. I just want to eat. I just want to watch some TV and just relax, because I'm going to have to get up tomorrow and do the same BS over again. The majority of, your time while you're awake is sold to someone else. Your time is the only non-renewable resource that you have, and it's traded away for pennies on the dollar, for money that in a couple decades from now will be worth only a fraction of what it's worth now. The system is designed for obedience. Schools condition people for employment. Since you're a child, they're constantly teaching you to sit still, to follow instructions, to ask for permission if you want to do something as simple as go to the bathroom. You work on someone else's schedule. And the only way you can win at the game of school is if you are fully obedient, right? And so this has significant effects, considering it happens during the developmental stage of a child's brain, right? Your brain isn't fully developed till 25, they say. And most people, even if you go through college, you graduate at 22 from college if you do everything on schedule. It mirrors a workplace hierarchy, right? Because you have a boss, deadline, rules, performance reviews, all of that stuff it's the same in school. But the thing is, now you have productivity with work without ownership. So workers, they create value, but they usually own none of what they hold. You get a few stocks or whatever once you progress to the ladder, but that amounts to pretty much nothing. The company profits from the result of your labor. I think it was in 2018, they said the average employee made the company 4 times as much as their salary. Right? You don't actually own anything. When you go and work in a 9 to 5, you're supporting someone else's dream, not chasing your own. One of my biggest issues with it is that there's just a lack of fulfillment. It's very obvious that all this stuff is bullshit. There is this guy, his name is what is his name? He was a guy that worked at Whataburger. Byron, that's his name. So Byron, he was this guy on social media that worked at Whataburger. He just, on his breaks, he would do product reviews, and they were very positive. He's like, this is delicious. Always positive. Tens of millions, over hundreds of millions of views he got promoting this. I mean, just great free advertisement for the company. So how do you think they thanked him for that? They fired him. And it's the most corporate BS you've ever seen, right? It's so true to its nature, where it's corporate lacks nuance. There's such a structured hierarchical system where you just have to kiss ass to the person above you. Everybody just wants to check a box, complete it, and then be done with it. So corporate sees this guy, they're like, oh, he shouldn't be recording videos. Oh, we're just going to fire him. He legitimately was the most irreplaceable employee in that entire company. All the higher ups, they could be replaced, probably even by ChatGPT. You can't replace that guy. He had something to him that people loved. You don't just get tens of millions of views on really low effort videos if you're an average person. No, that cannot be replaced. And so I love the end of that story because he went to the competitor. He went to Sonic, and now he's happy. And I'm just like, I'm really happy for the kid, you know? The company profits purely off of the result of your labor, and you are getting paid a fixed wage, while the value that you generate can be significantly larger. It's just, the system is basically designed against the average person, and nobody is large enough to really conquer this system by themselves. And it's a tragedy to the commons. Everybody's doing what's in their best interest, which is not to revolt because they don't think anyone else will also do it. But in actuality, we all want to do it. Another issue, like you will see so often, because I made short form content on this topic, and people are just like, they have so much pride attached to the 9 to 5. They like get really mad when you call it for just being bullshit. They're like, no, but people actually love their job. It's like, what percentage of people actually love their 9 to 5? I mean, it's I think it's like 1% maybe. And those are like people that are just naturally born with some sort of desire. I don't know if desire is the right word. They're just born with like a natural enjoyment for potential mainstream career. Like if they really want, some people like really want to be doctors, and like I respect that and everything. Some people really want to be lawyers, whatever. So those are the lucky people that are just naturally born with that. But for the average person like me or you, it's like none of these career paths really seem viable for what's going to make me feel happy, what's going to make me actually want to get up and work every day. And then when you consider the fact that, you know, you're working for really 40 to 50 years now, and the way the economy is looking, it's looking like people will never retire. It's not a fair game. It's not. And by the time you do retire and build enough wealth, you can't even use it and enjoy it because you're too old to enjoy it. Here's another big issue. Debt locks people in. You know, you got student loans, you got car payments, rent or mortgages, right? You have credit cards. Everything just piles up, and it keeps you working regardless of whether you want to, because you're like, I have to pay the bills. It's the only way I can survive is to get up and go to work again. When in reality, you know, you just want to sleep. Freedom just becomes delayed until old age. When you're too old, the government doesn't care because you can't even revolt, you know? What are you going to be, 70 years old and you're like, oh my gosh, I want to turn this country around? No, at that point you're like, screw everybody. It's psychological control, man. Many people tie their identity to their job. That kind of ties into what I was saying before, where it's like people can't even admit that they don't like their jobs. They get defensive when you say that the 9 to 5 is bullshit and no one's fulfilled because they have their identity attached. And now it's cognitive dissonance, where it's like they literally can't like go against that. What do you do is often the first question that people will ask you. Your worth becomes measured in your productivity and in your income, right? It's like we were put on this earth that has so many amazing things and so many emotions you can feel, so many relationships you can develop with people, and we're kind of narrowing people down to, oh, how productive are you and how much money do you make, you know? I mean, why else would that be people are like, what's your name, where are you from, and what do you do for work? Those are like the three big questions, you know, because they just want to put you in a freaking box and then be like, yep, that's who that person is. The system keeps people too busy to question it because you work all day, you come home exhausted, you distract yourself with entertainment, repeat the same step over and over again. There's little time to really think about the system itself and how it doesn't make any sense. Rockefeller, who founded the General Board of Education, said, I'm in the business of building workers, not thinkers. And he also said, they will be too busy working all day to make money. And what he meant by that is like, you're not going to have time to like think for yourself, develop some sort of personal business you have. And that's really the only way out, is to develop your own business. You either got to be born into ridiculous wealth, which, let's be honest, none of us are, or you got to build up your own business. And to do that, you got to go through so much crap, like respect to those people, you know? And that's tough. I mean, it's the human condition. But even peasants back in the day, they would only work like 100 days out of the year, so like a third of the year, because the rest of it they were they couldn't harvest crops or whatever, and then they would live for free, and they would just like spend their evenings dancing and stuff like that. That's like real. You can look it up. The system needs compliance. That's what you have to understand. If everybody suddenly stopped accepting low freedom jobs, the system would collapse. It literally survives because most people believe it's the only realistic way to live. And so it continues on. So the real question isn't simply, you know, an issue with working, right? Humans have always worked. The question is who controls the time and the value created from work. Who's the one calling the shots on that? Who are we basically serving, right? Thank you guys for watching.